What's up everyone and welcome to the video. So today I want to do an ultimate guide to staying secure in crypto, because as we all know, for those guys that have been in crypto a while, crypto is a really dangerous place to be. You know, lots of scams, lots of scammers, hackers, you name it, especially in decentralized finance. It's a really dangerous place to be. So I wanted to kind of make this guide to kind of put everything together, because today we're going to talk about centralized exchanges. We're going to talk about how to stay secure, your hot wallets, your cold wallets, we're going to go your social media accounts. We're going to go over everything, and I'm going to give you some tips and tricks that I've learned over my time in crypto, that especially for you beginners and you guys haven't spent long in crypto, you're probably not going to know some of these, and you can start to implement them yourself to make sure that you're staying as safe as possible to try and avoid any sort of scam or hack or exploit or anything like that. So we'll go ahead and start. So first I want to talk about centralized exchanges. Now obviously the first bullet point there is just a little bit of common sense. I mean, there's hundreds of centralized exchanges out there now that trade cryptocurrency. Some are more trusted than others. And my advice, obviously it depends, because I understand from which country you live in determines which centralized exchanges you can use, because some of them are banned in certain countries, and because of crypto laws in your countries, you might not be able to use certain exchanges. So I do understand that, but still try and use, at least a top 20 centralized exchange or something like that. One that you can say is going to be more secure than, the one maybe like a top 500 or something like that. I mean, like I say, I do understand that some of you guys are in countries that's really difficult and you can't use some of the bigger exchanges because of that, but still, if you can, try and use one of the top exchanges. But even saying that, from the Quadriga scam a few years back in Canada, that, even if you're using a really, well-known top 20 DEX or whatever, you're still at risk. So moving on. So when you sign up, when you start making all your crypto accounts, right, when you start signing up to these centralized exchanges, when you sign up to anything in crypto, what I recommend is, as soon as you start to get into crypto, you want to create a separate email that you use just for crypto. So the reason behind this is that your normal email account you're going to be using for everyday tasks, and who knows what, signing up to all kinds of different stuff, for work or whatever it is. And if you use a separate email for crypto that you use just for crypto, then you stand much less chance for that email account to then be hacked or compromised somehow, because we're going to go over that in a little bit more detail in a second. So what I do recommend is using an email provider, someone like ProtonMail, who have encrypted emails and encrypted addresses, so it makes things a little bit more secure. Now, moving on, when you sign up to all these central exchanges, we're obviously going to ask for a bunch of information about you to sign up, especially if they want you to KYC to their site in order to be able to do certain things, like have your deposit and withdrawal limits raised and that kind of stuff. And they're most probably going to ask you for your mobile number. Now, you will be able to use your email address or your mobile number to make your logins more secure. So instead of just typing your password, once you type your password, it'll then ask you to validate that either through an email or a telephone, a text message from your telephone number, something like that. And my advice to that is, there is another method that most exchanges accept now, called a two-factor authenticator. Now, the two-factor authenticator for me is the number one way to secure your account. So if they ask you whether you want to, add a second factor in, whether it be email address, a text message, or this two-factor authenticator, I advise you to use a two-factor authenticator, and download, the Google Authenticator or, one of the other applications, and do it this way. This way is the most secure. And the reason for that, like I say, there's always a way that either your email address could be hacked, compromised, and there's especially a way that your mobile number can be hacked. And one of the most common methods for this, where people end up getting their centralized exchange accounts hacked, is through a SIM hack. Now, for those of you guys that don't know what a SIM hack is, basically what happens is, as soon as a hacker can get hold of certain information about you, say from your details being leaked from some sort of website. So as long as he knows your name, your address, your date of birth, your mobile number, and a little bit more information. Now, what these hackers do is they phone up your mobile provider and they pretend that they're you. And because they've got this information, your date of birth and this kind of stuff, sometimes the mobile provider believes that it's you and he lets you do a SIM swap where he swaps your mobile number onto his SIM card. And once he does this, then he has your mobile number and he can then use that to log into your Centralized Exchange account. This is a really common hack that happens a lot to people, and this is why I advise everybody not to use your mobile number as the two-factor authenticator. The way you should do it is you want to download one of the applications. The Google Authenticator is great, and you want to use that where the code changes every 30 seconds or a minute or something like that, and it's much more difficult to hack. So the next thing that I want, so if you just look on the bottom right there, it's kind of how it works. So the number one is where you put your username and your password in, and the number two is then when you go over to your authenticator application, it will give you a code which is going to refresh every 30 seconds or so. You need to copy that quickly before it refreshes another time and paste it in, and that's how you're going to gain access to your accounts. And I highly recommend doing that on all of your centralized exchanges that you signed up to. And we're just going to head over to that last one before we talk about sending funds to the correct networks. And the last one is setting up a phishing code. Now, going back to the email address, the reason as well why I don't like using email addresses for the two-factor authenticator is because of phishing emails. Now, lots of scammers, they get hold of email addresses easily, big lists of email addresses that they've compromised from other places. And, if you've signed up to something or, your email address can easily get out there, then these scammers are going to try and target you and they're going to send you loads of emails pretending that the MetaMask, pretending that the Binance, pretending that the Crypto.com. And what you want you to do is they want you to click on their link in their email, and once you do that, then they can compromise your computer and they can hack into your funds. I've seen this happen to a number of friends of mine. Actually, I've been meaning to get this video out for a little while, but just as of yesterday, I had a good friend of mine had his hot wallets compromised. That made me want to get his video out kind of faster. And so you've got to be really careful with the emails that you're opening, and that's why I prefer not to use an email address as my authentication. And the SIM hack is the reason why I don't like to use my mobile number. So if possible, you don't really want to store your mobile number on the exchange. Your email address, you will have to kind of keep it on there, but as I say, use a separate email that you use only for your crypto. So no mobile number, two-factor authenticator. However, there is going to be some times when you are going to need to kind of respond to emails. So one thing you need to set up is that most of these big centralized exchanges have what's called a phishing code. So what it is you, inside your user space in the centralized exchange, you'll be able to set up a phishing code. And now what this is, it's a little code or word or whatever that's unique to you that you've set up on their platform and that only you know. Now, every time the exchange then sends you an email, they will have this anti-phishing code in the email or word in the email, so you know that this email legitimately comes on that exchange. And that's one way to kind of know that the email is legit or not. But even so, I prefer just to use the applications with the authenticators, because for me that is the most secure way. So moving on next. The last one really isn't so much to do with security, it's just more to do with common sense. And for beginners who are kind of new to crypto, you're going to be sending funds around, right? Especially if you trade on centralized exchanges, it's okay. But once you start going into decentralized finance and you're going to start sending money to hot wallets and cold wallets or whatever, you're going to have to start to learn about networks and which networks to send it on, because if you choose the wrong network and you send your funds to the wrong network and then that other wallet address doesn't support that network, then I'm sorry, but your funds have lost. And I know plenty of friends who have done that, and even experienced people in crypto who just make a little stupid mistake. So every time you're sending money from a centralized exchange to a decentralized platform or wallet or whatever, really just double check every time that you're using the correct network, because some blockchains also have two different networks as well. For example, Binance Smart Chain has the BEP20 and the BEP2, which have the different uses. You need to make sure that you're choosing the right one each time, or you could end up losing funds. And something that's covered like a number of topics and centralized exchanges. Some of these I didn't know myself. For example, when I started crypto, I just used my normal email address that I use for everything on crypto, and then I quickly noticed I was just getting all these strange emails. Lucky enough, I'm quite like smart like that, and even though I was being in crypto, I knew what phishing was already and phishing emails and that kind of stuff. So I never did click on anything, but it's always best to start with a new fresh account, with a new fresh email address, and you can gauge more whether the emails are going to be legit or not. And yeah, so we'll move on now to decentralized finance. So we're going to talk about hot wallets here. So your hot wallet is going to be your kind of like online storage wallet that you're going to use to connect to decentralized apps and trade and do all that kind of stuff in DeFi. Now, the first piece of advice there for especially for beginners, I'm sure you experienced guys, you already know this point, but for your hot wallet, you're going to be given obviously your wallet address, but when you create it, you're also going to be given a seed phrase and a private key. Now, if you want to be able to access, for example, say, you lose your phone or lose your computer or one of them breaks or you've got to sign into it in a new place, you're going to need, the seed phrase and the private key in order to get your account back. So it's information that's crucial and you need, and you can't afford to lose it, so you need to have it, jotted down somewhere. But my advice is absolutely do not have copies of this on your computer whatsoever. So don't think just, I'm just going to put it down in a little Word document and save it in a little file that, in the corner of whatever and no one will find it. You never know what's going to happen in the future. You never know if you're going to fall in for some sort of scam or, some sort of virus somehow gets onto your computer. And it's really important that you don't have copies of this seed phrase or this private key on your computer. The best thing to do is to jot it down on a piece of paper and then put it somewhere safe in your house or apartment or wherever you live, and that's the best way to do it. So moving on, when you're using the internet as a crypto user, now you should always use two browsers. Now you should have one browser for crypto and specifically just crypto, and you should have one browser specifically for anything not related to crypto. So what that means is every time you connect into decentralized apps or exchanges or you're doing whatever you're doing in crypto, then you want to use your, I guess you can call it your crypto browser, and this is one where you want to have MetaMask installed on and all your different wallets or different blockchains or whatever, and you want everything to do with crypto on here. Now, your other browser that you can use separate to this is going to be the browser that you do everything not related to crypto on. So if you're just searching something on Google, watching YouTube videos, clicking on any sorts of websites, doing any sorts of online shopping or whatever you do, you want to do it on a completely separate browser to your browser you use for crypto. And the reason for this is because if you manage to somehow click on some sort of compromised link or some sort of compromised website which has virus and stuff like that in it and malware, then it happens that these guys can then hack into your MetaMask like that. I've had numerous friends who have been compromised this way, so it's important to be safe, and make sure you're not browsing stupid stuff, you're not watching like crazy porn or like in the dark web or all that kind of stuff. But even so, sometimes it can be stuff that you would have no idea that website would have a virus or malware on it, and it does. So you want to make sure that everything non-related is done on a different web browser which has no access to MetaMask or anything like this, and that can kind of protect you from getting compromised, basically. Okay, moving on to the next point. Now, every time you finish with a decentralized application, anything that you need to connect your wallet to, you should always disconnect your wallet from that decentralized app after using it. And the way you do that is look over to the right hand side of the screen. So you want to click on that big round button at the top on the MetaMask, and you want to scroll down to connected sites, and there you're going to see a list of sites that you've connected to before and that are still connected to your wallet at the moment. Now what you want to do is you want to make sure you go and disconnect all those websites. Really, in an ideal world, you want to do it just after you've finished using the decentralized app. You want to disconnect from it. Sometimes you might be doing multiple things in a day if you're full-time crypto and you're kind of busy. So you want to at least do this every evening before you log off for the evening. Right? As soon as you sign off for the day and say, okay, like I'm going to go to bed or finish crypto, whatever, I'm going to go do something else. You want to make sure the last thing you do before you sign out is you want to go to connected websites, you want to disconnect from every single dApp, and then you want to lock your wallet before you close it down. Again, that can just stop from, because of any of these decentralized applications get compromised themselves, then it has happened before and they managed to access people's wallets and steal funds. And then there's a second way to make this even more secure, because sometimes even when you disconnect from the wallet, your wallet can still get compromised and your funds can still get stolen if the site that you connected to becomes compromised, or if they themselves are scammers and they want to try and access people's funds. So what you can do is you can revoke your permissions. So what this basically is when you first sign up, it will ask you to give permission to the site, right? And that's what you're going to revoke. So the way you do this is there's several websites that you can go onto to revoke permissions. A couple of them, just off the top of my head, is Beefy Finance and Degen. Now these two, and there is more as well. Just look on, just do a quick Google search, and you can find different. Well, if actually, it's probably doing a Google search probably isn't a good method to actually find this stuff, because as we'll talk about a little bit later, Google is also a hotbed for phishing links, and lots of scammers want to give fake websites pretending that they're like Beefy Finance or a different website, and they'll pretend to be them. They'll change the URL slightly so people will fall for it, people will click on, and people get compromised. So maybe ask a couple of your friends in crypto whether they've got the proper link for Beefy Finance or something like that, so you can go ahead and revoke your permissions. Now, especially if you find out that a project that you've invested in and before, maybe you've already sold your position, but still, if you find out that a project that you've been in before has been compromised, or you find out that they started to scam people, then you need to make sure that you go on and you revoke your permission from that website, and that way you can be more secure and prevent yourself from getting your funds stolen. Now, moving on to the next point, never keep funds on your main wallet which you're using for connecting to dApps, participating in pre-sales or airdrops or that kind of stuff. So what I mean there is, I always advise having, when you create your MetaMask, so you're going to create your MetaMask, and that MetaMask is going to have a seed phrase and a private key, right? Now, every time you create another wallet from there, now they're each going to have a different private key, but will all have the same seed phrase, right? So what I recommend doing, as being the most secure as possible, is I recommend this first wallet that you create on MetaMask, have it as what I call dummy account. So that first wallet that you create on MetaMask, you're not actually ever going to do anything with it. You're going to create, you can rename it as dummy account or something like that. You're going to never put funds in it whatsoever. So the first account on your MetaMask, the one with the seed phrase, is never got funds in it, basically. So if someone ever was to hack your MetaMask, that would be the account that they get into, and then there'd be no funds in it. Then what I do recommend is having a second account, and now this second account is going to be the account that you're going to use to do stuff. So if you ever need to sign up a wallet address for a pre-sale or airdrops or connecting to decentralized apps or whatever, this is just a second wallet where you keep a small amount of funds in, obviously, because you're going to need funds to participate in your pre-sales and your private sales and your airdrops, or whatever you're doing, your farming or whatever you're doing. But you don't keep a lot of funds. You just keep the funds that you need in there. And this is the one that you need to make sure that you're disconnecting from the decentralized apps all the time. Revoke permissions from the sites that are dodgy and could potentially be a scam, and maybe it's a project that you've finished with now and you're never going to go back to it, then you can go in and revoke the permission there as well. And then I recommend having another account, and this third account is the one that you're going to keep your, say for example you do win a lot of money, this is the account now that you're going to keep the money in, and this account, so you're going to send it from your other accounts to this wallet, and this wallet you are never ever going to connect to anything. You're going to make sure that it's never been connected to any sort of decentralized app. You've never given this wallet even the address out in any sort of like signing it up to for any sort of pre-sale or whatever. So there's no way that this wallet can be put on some sort of list to be have the funds stolen. Now, what you can actually do there to make yourself even more secure, we will go over in the next slide, so we'll talk about that. And yeah, that last bullet point just kind of goes over what I've just said. So what I do recommend, when you create those two other wallet addresses that I was talking about, I recommend creating them somewhere else. I personally create them on SafePal wallet. I create them there so they have a fresh seed phrase and a fresh private one, and then I import that one that I used for pre-sales and connecting to dApps into MetaMask. So it's not the official wallet that I created on MetaMask. It's just been imported there. And the other wallet, which has the majority of the funds in, I don't have that on my MetaMask whatsoever, so it's not linked there. So we're going to move on now, and we're going to talk about some of the crucial measures. So I think the first one, I kind of already went over one. Just be very careful about the phishing stuff. So the phishing emails, expect that every email you have related to crypto, especially the MetaMask ones, MetaMask do not email you whatsoever. They have no bother in that kind of stuff. They will never email you about anything. So if you've received an email from MetaMask saying your account's about to be blocked, all this kind of crazy stuff, just never click on it. MetaMask will never email you, and always assume that every email you receive is a phishing email. And like that, you can pay ultimate attention. If you really was expecting an email for like some sort of, for whatever it is, then at least make sure that your phishing code's on there. But otherwise, just expect that everything is a phishing email, people trying to hack you and scam you. That also leads on to what I was talking about before, that when you're searching for the decentralized apps you use, whether it might be PancakeSwap or whatever it is, what I do recommend is when you're on the official site, so you're on the official site of PancakeSwap or Uniswap or whatever it is, what I do recommend is putting that tab in your favorites and put it in your favorites. So every time now that you want to go onto PancakeSwap, you don't have to go into Google and type in PancakeSwap, because what happens, and these hackers and scammers are getting really good, they're managing to find ways to put their scam URL, which is pretending to be PancakeSwap or Uniswap, and getting it onto the Google homepage, so that when you type PancakeSwap in, one of the first results sometimes is is a compromised address that looks very like PancakeSwap. It'll just have like one or two letters changed, or instead of being .com, it'll be .org or something like that. And it's if you're not paying attention or you're a little bit tired, it's very easy to go ahead and click that. And once you click that, you open yourself up to being hacked and having your funds stolen. So my advice is, for those decentralized apps that you use often, like PancakeSwap, like Uniswap, or whatever it is that you use all the time, just add them to your favourites. You don't have to then search for them on Google, because searching for stuff on Google leaves you vulnerable again to be clicking on bad links. Yeah, and that's another thing as well. So we'll go to that first bullet point. So never click on any links whilst logged into your wallet. Now that kind of goes back to the browser thing, right? So you don't really want to be doing anything that's non-related to crypto on your crypto browser. If you're going to be clicking any sort of links whatsoever, which I don't recommend doing at all, but maybe you have to because you're signing up to something or whatever, and you think something's trustworthy for whatever reason, then make sure you do it on your non-crypto browser. But if you, for whatever reason, it's something related to crypto and you want to do it, you have to do it on this side. One thing that I advise is that make sure that you always have you are signed out of your MetaMask. So when you click onto MetaMask at the top, there's a little lock button. Click lock whenever you're clicking any sort of links whatsoever, so that makes you a little bit more secure when you're clicking on these kind of links. So I think that kind of goes over that first point. So we've gone over about the phishing emails and making sure that you add all the dApps to your favourites, so you don't run the risk of clicking on any phishing sites. There we go. Now moving on to social media. So people that use crypto, we like to have our communities on Telegram and Discord mail, and that's what most of us use to interact with other crypto users and other projects and that kind of stuff. Now these places as well are a hotbed for scammers and hackers. Now especially now I'd say the most common ones that you're going to get is whenever you join up to a project, then especially when it comes close to launch time, you're going to get a lot of scammers creating fake links, pretending that they are this project. So they'll create a new group that looks very identical to the actual project, and then they'll stick a bad link on it, which if you end up clicking on that link, you can end up getting your wallet compromised. So you just got to be very careful. What you can do is you just want to go onto your Telegram, and then once you're on there, you want to head over into settings, and then once you're on settings, you want to go privacy and security, and then you want to head down to groups and channels. Now you want to make sure you turn that onto my contacts only. So that means that people that aren't a contact with you on Telegram, that you don't have as a contact, they won't be able to invite you to groups or channels or anything like that. So that should block most of them out, but even still, they do find a way around that sometimes. Sometimes you will be looking at it, and you can kind of tell because when you get sent to it, the right at the top of the screen, it'll say kind of have an option to block user, because it will mean that that's the first message you've received from this group. And you know that if you've been in a group like following a project for a number of weeks, you know it's not the first message and stuff like that. It's something you get used to, but for beginners, you know, you need to really make sure you're on top about that, because you know just one lack of concentration and just one, you know, maybe being tired and just clicking on that one link, you know, can just, all your funds can be gone the next day. So you've got to be really careful. Another thing as well is you will have individuals that will pretend to be other individuals. So they might pretend to be somebody from a project, they might pretend to be one of your friends, you know, and they will make fake profiles that look identical to these people, and they will claim that they just need your help for a second and they'll give you your money back in 5 minutes or whatever, and ask you to send your funds. So one thing you can do, it says here on the fourth slide, if somebody messages you first, whether it's on Telegram or Discord, 100% of the time it's a scam, pretty much. Unless you have a friend, obviously, that you've already messaged and you can see the previous conversation history. But if somebody messages you first and you've never received a message of them before, assume that it's a scam, because most of the time it is. And that counts for Discord as well as Telegram. You're going to have a bunch of people trying to scam you on Discord. You know, you can just do report scam every time and it should hopefully ban their account. Now, these guys on Telegram, sometimes they will send you a link that they want you to click on to maybe like verify your wallet, or they'll tell you to go have a look at it or whatever. And sometimes they'll send you a file, and then the file they'll say, oh, you just need to open this file, and then you click confirm or whatever. Either way, whichever one you click on, if you click that, you're leaving your wallet open to being compromised and your funds being stolen. So moving on to the next point, I've got a picture up there on the right. This is buy a ledger. So ledgers are probably the safest place to be putting your money, putting all your crypto funds, because there's no way of somebody getting the funds out of there unless they have that physical ledger in their hand. So the only way that somebody could compromise your money that's in a ledger is if they came into your house and physically stole your ledger off you in order to get those funds out. That's the only way they can do it. That's why, I personally recommend, like I was saying before, to have that third account where you put most of your funds, and this is what I recommend as that third account. I mean, okay, not everybody has a ledger, so for the time being, create a third hot wallet and keep it in there. But as soon as you can, get yourself a ledger, and all the funds that is possible to store in that ledger, store it in there. And it's the safest place to have your funds. Now, even ledgers have had the problems over the years, and one of the main ones is these themselves, Nano Ledger. They had a problem where they had a data hack, so all the data of all the clients that they had got hacked and got stolen. And now going back to really early on this video and some stuff I was talking about, and that can be really dangerous because these hackers have obviously hacked this and stolen these details of these crypto users, for one reason only, because they know everybody that's bought a Nano Ledger has crypto money. And then what they can do with that information, because when you bought off them, you would have had to put in your address, your phone number, your email, your full name, maybe your date of birth, I'm not sure. But you would have to put a bunch of details in there that those hackers can then use to try and hack into your centralized exchange accounts. So one piece of advice that I do give is when you're buying anything crypto related, whether it be a ledger or whatever, is don't use your via email, and especially don't use the email that you use for the centralized exchanges. Like I was talking about at the start of the video about creating a separate email for every crypto related. Well, when you're buying a ledger, do not use that email, just use a completely different one whatsoever. Even the same with a mobile number. What my advice for the mobile number would be, maybe if you know somebody close to you that doesn't do crypto whatsoever or isn't interested in crypto, maybe your girlfriend, maybe a relative or whatever, a grandparent, who's never going to trade crypto, you can maybe put their phone number in, because if the data then wants to get compromised, well, that relative of yours doesn't have any centralized exchange accounts, so they have no risk of getting any sort of funds stolen. And even the same with the address, you don't even want to put your real address on there. So maybe you want to put like a parent's address or a relative's address or something like that, and then you can get again, somebody who's not in crypto whatsoever, and you can get the ledger sent to their address and you can just pick it up from theirs, and that way none of your information that a hacker would need is then stored on the system or the server of like Nano Ledger or SafePal or whoever it was that you bought that ledger off. And so the last one is trade responsibly. There's a lot of points in there. Most of those I didn't know when I first started crypto. These are things that I've learned one by one slowly as time has progressed. Now, it would have been great if when I started I'd have been able to watch a video like this that went over all these points, that I could have been really skilled from the start. Luckily, I've never had any of my wallets compromised. I've been quite lucky though, because at first I didn't know that you had to disconnect your wallet from decentralized apps and that kind of stuff. But I got kind of lucky, and then before it was kind of too late, I found out about most of these methods, and I stick to all of them now. And so far, touch wood, I haven't had my wallet compromised. But even following all these, anybody can compromise crypto. Who knows? The hackers are constantly evolving and finding new ways to hack in and hack people's funds. So some stuff that we find relatively safe right now, in 6 months and a year's time, there might be ways to compromise and steal funds. So yeah, but as of now, from this date that I've made this video, this is it's a really in-depth, detailed guide, and I hope it gives you guys some nice tips and tricks that you can use to make yourself more safe in the crypto world. And so just wanted to let you guys know that I do have my own Discord community that I have put a link in the description of the video. So over there we do talk about different projects, and we also talk about maybe potential scams and rugs in there. So we do like to help each other out to make sure that we can avoid any sort of scams, that kind of stuff. So if you are new to crypto and maybe you want a little bit of help, some advice, you're not really sure about projects, upcoming projects, that kind of stuff, we talk about all that stuff in the Discord community. So I advise you to come over and join us over on there. And so that's pretty much it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this guide, and until next time, bye.